Thunder rolled over Surulere as the compound lights flickered. Adaeze, a 30-year-old Igbo woman with a soft brown complexion and a neat twist out under a simple satin scarf, stood in her own living room shaking. Her Ankara house dress clung to her as the evening heat pressed in. On the couch sat Bisi, her bestie, 29, a slim Yoruba woman with long knotless braids sweeping her shoulder, nails glossy, wearing Chinedu's white shirt like a trophy. Chinedu, 35, tall, dark, low fade cut and a trimmed beard, leaned on the wall in a gray kaftan, eyes cold like glass. He did not look at his wife. He stared through her. "Bisi is staying," he said, voice flat. "You should pack a bag." The room went silent except for the ceiling fan rattling. Adaeze tried to smile as if this was a bad joke. "Pack a bag to where?" Her voice sounded small even to herself. Bisi crossed her legs and rested a manicured hand on her own stomach, like a woman guarding a secret. "You heard him," she said, eyes shining. "Don't make this ugly." A crack of lightning lit the room. On the center table lay a white plastic stick, 2 red lines staring back like eyes that refused to blink. Adaeze froze. Bisi tilted the stick with her nail and smiled wider. Chinedu exhaled like a man who had held his breath for months. "We will talk like adults in the morning," he said. "For now, respect yourself." The storm outside grew louder, but the storm inside was worse. Adaeze's fingers trembled as she looked from the test to her husband to the woman who used to call her sister. The pain pushed tears to the edge of her eyelids, but she swallowed them hard. She could not cry yet. Not in front of Bisi. Not in front of the man who used to wipe her tears. The stick on the table glowed in her mind. 2 lines, 2 lines, 2 lines. Was this how everything ended? Or was this how the truth would begin? The fan clicked, the lights dimmed, and the sound of the rain drowned her heartbeat. Then, another knock at the gate. Slow, heavy, dangerous. Who could be outside at this hour with the street already flooding? Why now? Hours before that storm, it was an ordinary Tuesday in Lagos, full of small choices that lead to big wars. Adaeze had woken early as always. She tied her lemon Ankara wrapper and made breakfast, boiled yam with a peppery egg sauce her mother taught her. She packed a lunchbox for Chinedu, jollof rice with plantains, because she still believed simple food could hold a family together. She was a quiet woman who liked neat corners, clean curtains, and a house that smelled like Omo soap and fried onions. She worked part-time at a fabric store in Yaba and sold small accessories online at night. She had dreams, but she walked softly when she carried them. Bisi was the opposite. Bisi walked like thunder in bright sneakers. She laughed loudly, hugged tightly, and loved photos. She called her braids, "my crown," and her bodycon dresses, "my armor." She had a way of entering a room and turning the air to her temperature. She and Adaeze met during NYSC camp and kept the friendship alive through voice notes and birthdays. When Bisi lost her job in Ibadan and said she needed a place to stay, just for 2 weeks, Adaeze did not think twice. "Come," she said. "My home is your home. We will help you stand again." What harm could 2 weeks do? When Bisi arrived, she came with 2 suitcases, 3 wigs, and a smile that caught light. She hugged Chinedu like a cousin and called him Bro Chi. She washed plates like a good guest on day 1 and cooked egusi soup on day 2. "I am not here to be a burden," she kept saying. "God sees my heart." She wore Ankara skirts at first, a head wrap tied high. She greeted their elderly neighbors with a low bend and carried small biscuits for the children by the gate. Everyone liked her. It was easy to like someone who wanted to be liked. But 2 weeks turned to 3. The job interviews kept getting almost. Her CV needed small adjustment. A friend promised to call soon. Meanwhile, Bisi learned the pulse of the house as if she had always lived there. She knew where Chinedu dropped his keys, what jokes made him laugh, how to mirror his sigh when he came home tired, and how to pour cold water into a glass at the second he needed it. She learned Adaeze's habits too, how long her baths lasted, when she sent invoices, what hour she called her mother, which days she visited the market when her guard was down. At first it looked like help. When Pietzian took light, Bisi lit candles before Adaeze asked. When Adaeze bent to scrub the bathroom, Bisi took the brush. A queen shouldn't be doing this heavy work. A beg, leave it. When Chinedu forgot a meeting, Bisi had already texted a reminder. "I saw your sticky note on the fridge, Bro Chi. You're covered." On Sundays she tied a geli and sang louder than the choir. People said, "May God bless you for hosting this good girl." Adaeze smiled and agreed because that was the kind of wife she chose to be. Small stones, one by one, sink a boat. It started with a towel. Bisi left a wet towel on the back of the sofa and Adaeze asked, "Please don't put it there again." Bisi laughed and took it away. Later, a lipstick stain appeared on one of Chinedu's tumblers. Adeeze noticed. She washed it. She told herself not to keep count. One night, as frogs sang in the gutter after rain, Adeeze found Bisi in the kitchen in a short satin slip, stirring pepper soup. Chinedu stood nearby, barefoot in shorts, talking about football as if the hour wasn't midnight. The smell of Uziza filled the corridor. "Couldn't you tie a robe?" Adeeze asked, trying to sound calm. Bisi looked up, surprised and innocent. "Ah, sister, I didn't know you were awake. Sorry. It's just us here now. Just us." The next week brought odd messages. A neighbor hinted that he saw your friend and your husband laughing too close in the balcony. Adeeze laughed it off. People liked to stir trouble where there was none. Later, one of Chinedu's site workers, a boy with dusty boots, greeted Adeeze and said, "Madam, that your sister is fun-o. She knows how to gist with Oga." Adeeze smiled with a dry mouth and went inside to fold clothes that were already folded. She decided to be firm. 2 weeks have passed, she told Bisi, keeping her voice gentle. "Please, let's put a plan. Maybe my aunt in Ikeja can take you in while you job hunt. Our home is small. My marriage needs quiet." Bisi's eyes filled and tears held like glass before they fell. "I thought I was safe here," she whispered. "I never knew you were counting days. I will go." She packed a small bag dramatically, sat by the door and waited. Chinedu returned from work to see Bisi with a swollen face and a bag by her feet. "What happened?" he asked, looking from one woman to the other. Bisi did not speak. Her eyes said enough. Chinedu's jaw tightened. "Ada, why?" The question cut like a blade. Adeeze tried to explain, but her words tangled. 2 weeks, our space. I offered Ikeja. Bisi suddenly stood and rushed to the bathroom, sobbing loudly, unlocking a performance only a woman skilled in pity could give. Chinedu's look turned from confusion to disappointment. A seed took root. From then things moved in quiet steps. Chinedu came home later saying traffic was evil. He ate in silence more often, eyes on his phone. Bisi picked new roles like a woman opening gifts, family shopper, admin, driver when necessary, house DJ, prayer partner. She began to speak for the home. "Bro, Chi doesn't like too much pepper. Let me adjust it." "Ada, don't worry, he is allergic to crayfish this week. I'll follow him to the site tomorrow, you can rest." Adeeze tried to draw lines. "Thank you, but I will handle my home," she said. Bisi nodded sweetly and did the opposite the next day. It is hard to fight someone who smiles while taking your place. On the first Saturday of the month, the compound held a small sanitation and then a prayer meeting under the mango tree. The air smelled like damp sand and detergent. The older women all wore wrappers and simple blouses. The men wore shorts and singlets. Bisi arrived looking like Sunday, fitted ankara gown with gold studs, braids pulled into a high ponytail. She carried a cooler of puff-puff she had fried at dawn. People called her our wife. Adeeze heard it and swallowed hard. Chinedu wasn't blind. Why didn't he speak? Why didn't he see? That afternoon, Adeeze's mother called from Enugu. "My daughter, how is the girl staying with you?" she asked in a careful tone mothers use when they already know the answer. "She must not stay longer than peace allows." "We are fine, Mama," Adeeze said, because saying "we are breaking" would make it too real. That same evening, a small family argument became a big one. Chinedu had promised to transfer money for the fabric store's rent. He forgot. Adeeze reminded him gently. He frowned. "So I am now an ATM?" Bisi looked up from her phone, alarmed for show. Don't talk like that," she said, stepping between them like a referee. "Sister Ada didn't mean it. She is just stressed." Chinedu's anger turned to Bisi's defense like iron drawn to a magnet. "You see? Even Bisi understands. You don't appreciate anything I do." The words were not new, the weight behind them was. Adeeze stared at her husband and saw a stranger building a wall brick by brick. She also saw Bisi's eyes, calm and steady, measuring the distance left to conquer. The next trap was cleaner. Bisi cried one morning that her gold earrings were missing. She had left them only for 2 minutes on the TV stand. She searched everywhere, loud, fast, dramatic. "I know when I placed them," she cried. "This house is not safe." The compound women gathered with wide eyes, neighbors like stories. Adeeze kept saying, "We will find them. Calm down." Chinedu's jaw worked again. 2 days later the earrings appeared in the gap under the couch. "See my life," Bisi shouted. She hugged Adeeze too tightly. "Forgive me if I suspected anyone." Who did she suspect? She did not say. She did not need to. By now, Chinedu and Bisi had private jokes that excluded Adeeze, little looks that bounced over her head. Adaeze noticed that when she stood up from the dining table, they both leaned toward each other as if pulled by invisible strings. She began to pray longer at night, hands shaking over the same words, "God, return my husband to himself." She was not asking for a miracle, only for truth. Then came the day of the health scare that was not a health scare at all. Bisi fainted in the kitchen, pot of ogbono bubbling on the fire. Chinedu rushed in from the corridor and lifted her like glass. Adaeze brought water, a fan, sugar. Bisi opened one eye, closed it, then whispered, "Brochi, I think I know what is wrong with me." She asked for a stick. Not just any stick, that stick. The small plastic one that decides futures with lines. Adaeze's hands shook as she fetched it from the pharmacy bag in the bedroom drawer. She placed it on the sink and stepped back. A minute grew heavy. 2 lines rose like red thorns. Bisi gasped. Chinedu's face changed. Adaeze's world tilted. The silence screamed. "The Lord has done it," Bisi said softly, so softly it felt like a knife wrapped in cotton. She placed a trembling hand on her flat stomach and cried a single perfect tear. Chinedu, who had wanted children for 3 years, staggered to a chair. Adaeze held the edge of the sink. The room was suddenly too small for 3 people and a future. Night came early that day. The rain started, and Lagos did what Lagos does. Streets turned to brown rivers, the sky folded its arms, and generators woke one by one like tired lions. In the dim blue of the sitting room, the test sat on the table. Bisi sat next to it, owning the moment. Chinedu stood behind her, guard and judge. Adaeze stood by the curtain, eyes swollen from prayers that felt like throwing stones at the sea. Bisi spoke first. "I did not plan this," she said, voice soft like a lullaby. "But I will not hide it. Brochi is a good man. He deserves joy." Adaeze laughed once, a sound with no humor in it. "Joy built on what?" she asked. "On betrayal?" Bisi's face broke into hurt again like a quick costume change. "How can you call a child betrayal?" "Enough," Chinedu said. His voice carried. "No child will be called a mistake in my house." "My house." The 2 letters dragged across Adaeze's skin. "Your house?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "So I am a visitor here now?" "Nobody said that," Bisi answered sweetly. "Don't read what is not written." But it was already written, on the way Bisi's body leaned toward Chinedu, on the way he defended her without thought, on the way the air refused to sit between them. The storm banged the window. A knock came at the gate. 3 times. Slow. Heavy. Chinedu looked at the time. "Who is that by this time?" The security boy called from the corridor, voice tiny. "Oga, somebody drop envelope for madam. The person say it is urgent." "For who?" Bisi asked quickly. "For madam," the boy repeated, eyes on Adaeze. He held out a brown envelope, edges wet from rain. Adaeze took it with numb fingers. No name on the front. Only her heart beating too loudly. She opened it. Inside was a small USB flash drive and a torn receipt from a pharmacy on Ojulegba Road with today's date and a note scribbled in blue ink. "If you want the truth, plug this in." Not in their presence. Alone. Chinedu stepped closer. "What is that?" "A receipt," Adaeze said, closing the envelope slowly. She felt Bisi's eyes on her skin like heat. "I will look at it later." Bisi stood. "Anything that concerns this house concerns all of us," she said, trying to snatch the envelope. Adaeze stepped back, hand tight. Chinedu frowned. "Why are you hiding?" "I am not hiding," Adaeze replied, voice steadying. "But I will open my letter in my room. I am still the wife here." The words steadied her spine. She walked past them down the corridor as the storm roared approval or warning, she could not tell. In the bedroom, her hands shook as she shut the door and pushed a chair under the handle. She plugged the flash drive into her old laptop. The screen blinked. A folder opened. 3 files. The first, a video from a pharmacy, time-stamped 2:17 p.m. A woman with long knotless braids stood at the counter, speaking fast to the attendant. The camera angle was high, grainy, but clear enough. The woman bought a pregnancy test. Then another. Then another. She looked around, nervous. She tore open one, ran to the bathroom. She came out, face angry. She threw the strip away and opened another. The attendant tried to speak, she flashed money and continued. After the 3rd failed strip, she placed Nigerian bills on the counter and said something that made the attendant go still. The attendant shook her head. The woman wrote something on a small paper and pushed it over. The attendant hesitated, then reached under the counter. The video ended. Adaeze could not breathe. Her fingers clicked the second file. It was a short audio recording, 2 women whispering. The first voice was the attendant's, scared. The second voice was smooth and sweet until it wasn't. You will just mark the second line small. I will give you 5,000. It is small paint. It will not kill anybody. The attendant said, I cannot. The sweet voice turned hard. Then I will go to your boss and say you insulted me. Silence. Then a low, heavy sigh. Adese's mouth went dry. Her eyes burned. She clicked the third file, a still photo, a desk with 5 used test strips, 4 with 1 line, 1 with 2. A scribble on the paper beside them. Ask her why she needed the 5th one. Someone had set a trap. Someone else had planned an escape. Which would catch first? A shadow moved under her door, feet in the corridor. The handle pressed against the chair. Chinedu's voice came, tired but firm. Ada, open this door. We are not doing secrets in this house. Bisi's voice followed, honeyed and urgent. Sister, don't let strangers deceive you. Please open. Adese stared at the screen, at the evidence that could burn down a lie and shake a home. She closed the laptop slowly, heartbeat in her throat. Her hand hovered over the chair at the door. If she opened now, would the truth survive? If she waited till morning, would the truth still be safe? The storm hit the roof and the lights blinked again. She removed the chair. The handle turned. The door opened inward as she stepped back, envelope pressed to her chest. Chinedu's eyes searched her face. Bisi stood behind him, one hand on her flat stomach like a queen protecting a crown, the other hand curled at her side. What is in the envelope? Chinedu asked. Something you should see, Adese said, voice steady now like a drum that had found its beat. But not with her in the room. Bisi laughed without humor. Ah, the enemy of progress has become the judge. Chinedu looked from one to the other, tired of war and yet standing in the middle of it. Bring it here, he said. If there is truth, let us see it together. Adese walked past them into the sitting room, laptop under her arm, rain roaring like a crowd outside. She plugged in the flash drive, screen glowing pale blue on all their faces. Her finger hovered over the first file. In the seconds before she clicked play, a new sound rose above the storm. Another knock, not at the gate this time but on the front door. Fast, urgent, commanding. The 3 of them turned. The security boy's voice shook from the corridor. Madam? Oga, people are at the door. They say they are from the pharmacy at Ojulegba. They say there is a problem. Adese's finger trembled over the touchpad. Bisi's nails dug into her palm. Chinedu's jaw clenched as he took one step toward the door, and the screen flashed a frozen image of a familiar face under the pharmacy's harsh light, hand reaching under the counter for something that should have never left it. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from and what you think is behind that knock. Share this story with a friend who loves suspenseful African folktales. Your support keeps these stories coming. Rain hammered the zinc roof as the front door swung open. 3 people stood in the doorway, wet from head to toe. The first was a slim young woman in a black hijab and simple jeans, face pale, eyes red from crying. The second was a man in his late 40s with cocoa-brown skin, bald head, and a neat short beard, wearing a soaked pharmacy-branded polo. The third was a quiet teenage boy holding a clear nylon folder close to his chest. Good evening, the man said, voice steady but tight. I am Mr. Akinlaid, the manager from the pharmacy at Ojulegba. This is my staff, Aishat. We are very sorry to come this late, but there is a serious matter. The room went still. The TV screen still showed a frozen frame from the USB, Bisi at the pharmacy counter under harsh light, head turned to the side, knotless braids pulled high, lips pressed into a thin line. Chinedu's eyes bounced from the visitors to the screen, then back. What matter? Bisi asked, lifting her chin. She had changed nothing, still in Chinedu's white shirt, still with the soft hand on her belly like a crown. Why are you in our house at night? This is harassment. Aishat swallowed and looked at the floor. The teenage boy clutched the folder tighter. Mr. Akinlaid stepped forward one careful pace. Madam, we have to correct something before it grows wings. We believe you used my staff in our store for deceit today. We have evidence. And we came to return something that should never have left our counter. Bisi laughed a small laugh and shook her head. I don't know you, she said. Please leave before I call police. You will not call anybody yet, Chinedu cut in, voice harder than before. He turned to the visitors. Come in. Say what you came to say. He looked at Adese for a second, quick, unreadable, then moved aside. They stepped in. Water dripped from their clothes onto the tiles. The fan clicked above like a slow clock. Aishat's eyes darted to Bisi and away again, guilt heavy on her face. She whispered, I am sorry, Ma. Not to Bisi. To Adese. Talk, Bisi said, folding her arms, the soft gentleness gone. Mr. Akinlade nodded to the boy, who pulled out plastic sleeves. Inside were printouts, grainy photos from a phone camera. In one, Bisi stood at the counter holding a strip. In another, she pushed folded Naira notes across the glass. In a third, the attendant's hand reached under the counter where a small bottle of red-tinted solution sat near a row of test kits. The last was a simple receipt copy with a time stamp and a note. Customer insisted on extra kit after 3 negatives. Today around 2:17 p.m., the manager said, this lady came, bought a pregnancy test and used our bathroom. Came out negative. She became angry, bought another, then another. All negative. She then offered money to my staff to mark a second line with cosmetic ink. My staff refused. She threatened to report her. A friend of my staff recorded some parts because she feared trouble. All eyes went to the screen, still frozen. Adese's fingers trembled as she clicked play. The video moved. Bisi's face filled the frame, mouth tight, eyes hot. Her voice came soft and sharp at once. You will just mark the second line small. I will give you 5,000. It is small paint. It will not kill anybody. Aishat's shaky voice, I cannot. Then Bisi's voice dropped lower. Then I will go to your boss and say you insulted me. Choose. The video cut. Silence. Only rain in the fan. Bisi clapped once, slow. This is a lie, she said. This is editing. Anybody can put my face on anybody. Do you think we are fools? Deep fake is everywhere now. She smiled without warmth. Manager, you better carry your thief staff and go before I call my lawyer. Aishat flinched at the word, thief. Tears pushed to the corner of her eyes. I am not a thief, Ma, she said, voice tiny. I was scared. But I did not do what you asked. I did not mark anything. Chinedu looked like a man standing on a thin bridge, water roaring under. His eyes had the old love for Adeeze and the new spell of Bisi and the loud cry of his hunger for a child, all fighting inside him. He spoke slowly. Bisi, this is your face. This is your voice. It is a setup, Bisi shot back. From her. She pointed at Adeeze with a bitter smile. From the wife who cannot give you what you want. She planned this with them to shame me. Adeeze's mouth opened, then closed. She did not waste words. She turned the laptop volume higher and clicked the second file, audio. The whispers came again. Aishat, I cannot. Bisi, then I will go to your boss. Aishat, please don't. A heavy sigh. The audio ended. Manager, Bisi said sweetly, switching tone. You say you are manager. Where is your CCTV footage? This is Lagos. A real store has camera. Bring it. Our CCTV was off generator earlier, the man replied. But my staff's friend recorded. And we came because we fear God and the board. We cannot allow our store to be used for lies. We came to return your money and report that someone tried to bribe us. We also came to warn you that we will file a record of this visit to protect ourselves. Return which money? Chinedu asked, eyes narrowing. Aishat reached into her small crossbody bag and pulled out 5 wrinkled 1,000 Naira notes wrapped in a tissue. She forced it on me and walked out, she said, voice shaking. I could not keep it. I have not spent it. Take it back. I am sorry. The money sat on the center table beside the first test strip, 2 red lines like red eyes. The rain softened for a moment, then grew heavy again. Bisi hissed. I did not give you any 5,000, she said. Where would I see 5,000? Her eyes flicked to Chinedu and back, calculating. The teenage boy, who had been quiet all along, finally spoke. Auntie, you dropped 1 old test strip in our bin. I picked it because I knew trouble will come. It was only 1 line. The one on this table, the second line is not straight. It is paint. Shut up, Bisi said sharply. The boy looked down and took a step back. A slow, deep shame spread through the room like smoke. Neighbors' voices hummed outside the window. The compound always had ears. Chinedu stood very still. When he spoke, his voice was low. Bisi, if this is a lie, we go to hospital now. Tonight. We do blood test. We do scan. If it is true, I will protect you. If it is lie, he did not finish the sentence. Bisi looked at the door, then at the storm. She placed her hand on her stomach again, soft and theatrical. The hospital can wait till morning, she said. The roads are flooded. You want to risk a child for rain? She turned to Aishat, pointed. You will pay for this defamation. A knock sounded from the corridor. The security boy peeped in, voice nervous. Oga. Sorry, some neighbors are already outside. They heard voices. Should I close gate? No, Chinedu said. Nobody closes anything. He looked at the manager. Thank you for coming. We will handle this. He glanced at the laptop again at the still shot of Bisi reaching under the counter. Please leave your number. The manager gave it, apologizing again. He looked at Adeeze with honest pain. Madam, I am sorry. My staff should have called me faster. Fear delayed her. We will send a formal report in the morning. Thank you, Adeeze said simply. She had no strength for anger. Only gratitude for truth that had feet. The visitors left into the rain. The door closed. Silence again, but not quiet. A tight silence before a storm inside a storm. Chinedu ran a hand over his face. Bisi, he said, the name heavy now. Talk. What do you want me to say? She replied, voice breaking in the right place like a trained singer. That I am a liar? That I am evil? That I am trying to destroy your marriage? She laughed without joy. I am late. I feel sick. My back hurts. My appetite changed. Maybe their tests are fake. Maybe their staff hates me. Maybe your wife paid them. I don't know. I only know that I feel a new thing inside me. If you don't want the child, say it now so I can leave. Adeeze stared at her. Leave to where? She asked softly. To try this trick in another house? Bisi's eyes flashed. You think I am you? Silent and small? I'm not. I fight for what I want. What you want is my home, Adeeze said. And you walked in through my kindness. Chinedu raised a hand. Enough. He faced Bisi. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., we go to hospital. No argument. He turned to Adeeze. You will come too. He swallowed, voice rough. I want peace. I want truth. The fan clicked. The rain slowed to a whisper. For the first time that night, Adeeze saw a crack in Bisi's face. A small panic showed, then hid. Bisi nodded slowly. Fine, she said. But I sleep in the guest room tonight. Alone. I need rest. No, Chinedu said, surprising himself. You will sleep on the couch. The guest room is for guests, and this house is still my wife's house. He said it looking at Adeeze like a man remembering something he almost lost. Bisi's mouth fell open, then closed. Pride stiffened her back. She grabbed her small handbag and dropped into the corner couch like a queen who had been asked to use a stool. Hours crept. The storm passed. The compound fell into that special Lagos quiet where far-off generators became lullabies. In the dark corridor, Adeeze sat on the edge of the bed, laptop on her knees, the envelope by her side. She replayed the video again and again until the image burned into her mind. Not to torture herself, but to arm herself. Truth is a kind of weapon when used carefully. A soft knock came at her door. It opened a crack. Mama Kemi, the compound chairlady, slid in like a shadow. She was in her late 50s, rich ebony skin, gray scarf tied firm, wrapper slung low. My daughter, she whispered. I don't like night wa'ala, but I could not sleep. I saw the people that came. I heard small things. I don't enter marriage matters, but this one is in our compound and I am mother here. Adeeze stood quickly. Mama, I'm sorry about the noise. Noise is better than hidden fire, Mama Kemi said. She placed a soft palm on Adeeze's shoulder. I have eyes. We all do. We saw how that girl entered this house with long leg. We tried to warn you, but friendship can be a sweet blindness. I will say one thing, stand straight. Do not let anybody remove your name from your own door. And keep your proof. Lagos likes evidence. She reached into her bag and brought out a small flash drive on a red ribbon. The corridor camera. She smiled small at Adeeze's shock. Yes, I put one small camera last month when our gas kept missing. The camera points to all doors. It is not your balcony. But it shows who enters and leaves and when. Keep this. If tomorrow becomes court, truth will need friends. Adeeze took it, throat tight. Thank you, Mama. Sleep small, the older woman said. Morning will test everybody. When she left, Adeeze plugged in the new drive. Timestamps rolled. Clips showed small things. The security boy dozing on a plastic chair, neighbors carrying buckets, children chasing a ball. Then a clip with date from 2 weeks earlier. Bisi in an orange wrapper, tiptoeing from the guest room to the sitting room at 1:13 a.m. Seconds later, Chinedu stepping out of the corridor with a glass in his hand, both of them stopping, whispering, then moving too close. The camera had no sound. It did not need sound. The body language said what mouths would deny. Adeeze shut the laptop. If she stared longer, she would cry, and she had promised herself she would not cry for Bisi again. Near dawn, a new noise broke the thin sleep of the house. Chinedu's phone buzzing on the dining table, a message that would not stop. He woke on a straight-back chair where he had sat and dozed. He rubbed his eyes, checked the screen. An unknown number had sent a text. Ask Bisi about Tolu in Ibadan. Check her other phone. Do not let her go to the bathroom alone tomorrow. She has a plan. He frowned, looked toward the couch where Bisi lay under a throw blanket. She slept too still. He stood, walked to the couch and saw it, peeping from under the cushion. A small second phone with a cracked corner, silent and black. He reached for it. Bisi's eyes snapped open. Her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. What are you doing? She asked, voice low. Looking for truth, he said. She laughed softly in the dawn light. Truth is what you choose, she replied. And you have already chosen who you will believe. He pulled his hand free, took the small phone and stepped back. It was locked. He stared at Bisi. Open it. She stretched like a cat, face smooth again. What? Am I your prisoner? If you are clean, open it. What if I am not clean? She said, smiling with no humor. Will you beat me? Will you throw me out in the rain? She sat up slowly. If you want to see it, wait for hospital. I will open it there. With a doctor present. So your saint will stop lying against me. The doorbell rang sharp, straight, early. The sky outside was turning from black to charcoal. The security boy's sleepy voice came from the gate. Oga, some people are here again. They say they are from the board. They came with police. Bisi and Chinedu looked at each other. Adaeze stepped out of the corridor with Mama Kemi's flash drive in her palm. The bell rang again harder. A man's voice called from outside, firm. Open the door. Pharmacy board and police. We need to ask questions about a complaint. And we need to speak to one. Bisi Adeyemi. Bisi stood slowly, eyes bright like a cornered cat. She glanced at the bathroom, then at the kitchen, then at the tiny backyard door near the gas cylinder. Her hand slid into her handbag and closed around something small and red. Adaeze saw the color in Bisi's hand and her blood went cold. She remembered the manager's printout, the red-tinted solution from under the counter. The message from the unknown number echoed, do not let her go to the bathroom alone tomorrow. She has a plan. Bisi took one step toward the bathroom, still smiling. I should freshen up before guests, she said. Don't, Adaeze said quietly, blocking the corridor. Chinedu's eyes flicked between them, chest rising and falling. The bell rang again, the police voice harder. Last warning. Open. Bisi's smile thinned. She feinted left, then swung right, and the small red bottle flashed in her hand as she darted toward the bathroom door. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what you think Bisi is holding. Share this story with someone who loves suspenseful African folktales. Bisi darted toward the bathroom, the small red bottle flashing in her hand like a warning light. Adaeze stepped sideways, blocking the corridor with quiet speed, wrapper tied firm at her waist. Chinedu moved too, one long stride, catching Bisi by the elbow before she reached the door. The bottle slipped, rolled on the tiles and stopped by the skirting. A single red drop bled out and sat on the floor like a tiny lie. Pick it, Chinedu said, voice low. Bisi wrenched her arm free and tried to smile. It's only nail polish remover, she said. I want to clean my nails. By morning? Adaeze asked, eyes on the bottle. A heavy knock shook the door. Open now, a firm voice called. Pharmacy board and police. The security boy rushed to unbolt. In stepped two officers, one male sergeant with a wide chest and a neat mustache, one female corporal with tight cornrows under her cap. With them came a slim woman in a navy jacket with an ID card, Pharmacy Council. Behind them, rain hissed in the gutter. The officers took in the room in 2 seconds. The frozen video on the TV, the people, the bottle on the floor, the tension. Good morning, the sergeant said shortly. We're here on a complaint made tonight by Akinlade Pharmacy Ojulegba. We will ask questions and collect any item used to alter a medical test. Bisi's chin lifted. Do you have a warrant? The female officer held up a letter. Emergency authorization to secure evidence, she said. We won't search your drawers today. We will collect what is in plain sight. Her eyes flicked to the red bottle. Like that. Bisi folded her arms. That is my private cosmetic. Then you won't mind if we verify what cosmetic it is? The officer replied calmly. She picked it up with a tissue. The sergeant nodded at the TV. Play the clip, he said to no one and everyone. Adaeze pressed the laptop touchpad with steady fingers. The room filled with the soft, sharp recording. You will just mark the second line small, 5,000, it will not kill anybody. The female officer's eyebrows climbed by a small, meaningful degree. The sergeant wrote in a small notebook. Chinedu stood still beside the couch, face unreadable now. Only his hand, open, close, open, betrayed the noise inside him. The woman from the board spoke for the first time, voice clear, Yoruba lilt steady. "Madam, we will not conclude here," she said, looking at Bisi without fear. "But we must remove confusion. We will escort you all to hospital now for a blood test. Not urine. Blood. You will not go to any bathroom alone, for fairness." She turned to Adaeze and Chinedu. "Both of you come to avoid stories." Bisi's eyes flashed. "Now. The roads are flooded. This is wickedness." The sergeant nodded toward the door. "We came with a patrol van. Rain or no rain, truth can walk." Bisi's lips tightened. "Fine. Let me take my scarf." She reached toward her handbag. The female officer stepped closer. "I'll hold that," she said, taking the bag gently but firmly. "We will return it at the hospital." For a small heartbeat, something wild moved under Bisi's pretty face. Then it settled. She exhaled. "Lead the way." They rode to the hospital in 2 cars, police van in front, Chinedu's sedan behind. The streets were shiny and dark, gutters coughing brown water. Danfo buses slept crooked at the roadside like tired beasts. The hospital was bright and busy under the rain. Nurses in white shoes moved like quiet birds. The generator hummed like a giant sleeping animal. Inside, the female officer signed a quick note at the nurse's station. "Observation room," a young nurse said, pointing. They were given a small room with a bed, 2 plastic chairs and a steel trolley. The sergeant stood by the door. The female officer stayed inside. The pharmacy board woman made a call. "Lab is ready," she said. "They will take blood in 10 minutes." Bisi sat on the edge of the bed, Chinedu took a chair by the wall, Adaeze stood near the window. She felt the cold of the AC on her arms. She also felt Mama Kemi's small flash drive, tucked deep in her wrapper pocket, like a tiny stone of courage. Chinedu glanced at Bisi's hands. "Wash," he said simply. "I am clean," Bisi answered. "Wash," the female officer repeated, voice kind but firm. "For your own good." She passed Bisi a small bowl and soap. The water ran pink when it touched Bisi's palm. The officer's eyes did not move. "Nail polish ABI?" she said softly. Bisi rinsed longer until the water ran clear. When she finished, she looked smaller for just a second, like a dress that does not fit as well under bright light. A lab tech in a blue cap wheeled in a cart. "Beta HCG blood test," she said briskly. "We will take 2 samples. Results in 1 hour." She tied a tourniquet on Bisi's arm. Bisi stared at the ceiling, face smooth, jaw tight. The needle went in. The tube filled dark red. The tech labeled it carefully, sealed, and left. Silence returned. A slow drip from the AC joined the hum of the generator. Chinedu rubbed his hands together. Adaeze looked at the floor and whispered a small prayer her mother taught her. "God, sit me down where truth is." Bisi's small second phone suddenly buzzed in the female officer's hand where she had placed the handbag. The officer glanced at the screen. "Private number," she said. "Do you want to answer, Ma?" Bisi's eyes flashed. "It is mine." "It will stay mine till we finish," the officer replied. "If it is urgent, they will call again." The phone buzzed again. Then again. The 4th time a text popped up. The officer read it and lifted one eyebrow. She turned the screen to Bisi. "Who is Tolu in Ibadan?" Bisi's smile slid back into place fast. "A cousin." The officer's phone buzzed too. Unknown number. She picked. "Officer Adesua," she said. A man's rough whisper came through, low and shaky. They all heard it in the quiet room. "Madam Officer, I don't want trouble. My name is Tolu. Please protect yourselves. That lady wants to sneak to bathroom to paint a test. Check her bag for small red bottle. She used to do this in Ibadan to trap a man who owns a car shop. Ask her about that man. Ask her about Sei too. She will try to cry. Please do not let her near a toilet." The officer's eyes did not leave Bisi's face. "We already collected the bottle," she said calmly. "Who are you to her?" The voice hesitated. "She promised me money to make fake scan," the man said, shame crawling into the words. "I said no. She said she will finish me. I am afraid of police, but I am more afraid of God. I am sending a voice note now with her call this afternoon. Do not tell her my number. I beg." The call cut. The female officer looked at Bisi. "You will explain later," she said. She pressed play on a voice note that arrived seconds after. Bisi's voice filled the room, too clear to be denied, harder than the one in their sitting room. "No, Tolu, the last man believed it for 2 weeks. We only need 1 week. I will buy the scan paper. Just print faint. Stop shaking. I said I will pay you and I will pay you. If you mess me up, I will send boys to your mother's house. Do you hear me? Chinedu's head dropped into his hands. The sound that came out of him was not a cry, it was the quiet breaking of something heavy. Bisi sat very straight and did not blink. This is edited, she said. Anybody can make my voice say anything. The pharmacy board lady breathed out slowly, like a teacher whose student has said a foolish thing. Madam, she said, it is 5 a.m. Nobody is editing your life in real time. The lab tech returned with a small plastic cup. Protocol, she said. Even though we are doing blood, doctor says do urine too. We will watch. She set the cup on the trolley. Bisi reached for it. The female officer stood. We go together, she said. No bag. No phone. Hands open. Come. They entered the small bathroom beside the room. The officer stood by the door, eyes on Bisi's fingers. Bisi glared at the wall and focused on the cup. 2 minutes later they came out. The officer took the cup herself, walked it to the nurse's station and signed a note. Straight to lab, she said. No detours. Back in the small room, the sergeant paced slowly. Adaeze leaned on the window rail and watched Lagos wake up, thin smoke from suya stalls, a woman in a wrapper sweeping rain from her shop front, a teenage boy pushing a wheelbarrow with wet carrots. This is how morning always came, even after nights like fire. Chinedu's phone pinged again. The same unknown number. Check her IGDM. Search Sei Auto Ibadan. He stared at the message like a man who has run out of road. He looked at the small second phone on the table. Unlock it, he said to Bisi. I have no password, she said too quickly. The female officer tapped the screen. A pin pad appeared. Put it, she said. Bisi held her jaw tight. No. The sergeant spoke for the first time in a while. If we take it in, we will get a court order, he said. We will also keep you in custody till then. Bisi looked at the clock. The second hand ticked with small, rude confidence. She exhaled. Fine. She typed 4 numbers. The phone opened. Messages spilled like spilled beans. Voice notes. Photos. Chats labeled Sei Auto, Tolu printer, Amaka wig. The female officer did not smile. She scrolled with a slow, steady finger, taking screenshots one by one. A doctor in a light blue coat knocked softly and entered with 2 papers in hand. Good morning, he said. Beta HCG qualitative and quantitative. He looked at the paper, then at the faces in the room. He spoke in simple language the way good doctors do. The pregnancy blood test we ran is negative. The number is below 5. You are not pregnant. The word landed. There was no thunder this time. Only the quiet truth sitting on a chair it had earned. Chinedu inhaled like a man who has reached the end of a tunnel. He did not speak. His eyes were wet but clear. Adeeze's fingers tightened on the window rail. She did not say, I told you. She did not say anything. The only sound she allowed herself was a single long exhale that left her body like a burden stepping down from her back. Bisi's face did not break. Not yet. Maybe it is very early, she said softly. Maybe it is hidden. She turned to the doctor. There is something called hook effect. The doctor nodded politely. Hook effect is very rare and happens with very high numbers, not very low. We can repeat in 2 days if you want, but right now this result is clear. He held the second paper out. Urine test just came too. Also negative. The female officer collected both papers and slipped them into a clear sleeve. We will attach to our report, she said. Madam Bisi, you will come with us to the station to write your statement. There may be charges later for attempted fraud at a health facility. For now, we will keep the red substance for testing. Bisi's smile finally cracked. She stood fast. I am not going anywhere, she said, voice shaking for the first time. You cannot force me. The sergeant looked at the female officer. Corporal, he said calmly. The female officer stepped forward. Please don't make us hold you, she said. Walk with dignity. Chinedu rose then, chair scraping gently on the floor. He looked at Bisi long and very quiet, all the warm softness gone from his eyes. Only tiredness and something like grief remained. He spoke in a voice that did not shake. You will go with them, he said. Then you will come back to this house to pack your things in daylight, when neighbors can see that we do not beat a guest, even a bad one. After that, you will leave. Bisi stared at him as if he had struck her. Her lips trembled. After everything I did for you? After the joy I brought into your life these weeks? After the meals I cooked, the reminders, the care? Her voice rose. You will stand with this cold wife who cannot even give you a child? Adeeze's head turned slowly. The words landed hot. But she kept her mouth closed. Some fights do not deserve your breath. Chinedu's face hardened. My wife, he said, tapping his chest lightly, is the only one who stood with me when we had nothing. She will not be insulted in front of me again. Something flickered in Bisi's eyes, shock, then rage, then fear. She took a step back and saw the door. Her body tensed like a cat ready to run. The female officer read it before it happened. She shifted her weight, blocking the path without drama. Don't, she said. Bisi did not listen. She feinted left, dropped her shoulder and sprang toward the corridor door. For a moment everything sped up, the sergeant moving, the officer reaching, the doctor stepping aside, the small red bottle in the evidence pouch falling and hitting the trolley with a clink, the door almost swinging open. And then a deep male voice filled the doorway like a wall. Don't take another step, Bisi. A tall, lean man in a wet brown jacket stood there, police escort behind him. His face was tired, his eyes full of old anger. He smelled like road dust and rain. Chinedu frowned. Who are you? The man's gaze did not leave Bisi. My name is Sei, he said. Sei from Ibadan. He lifted a small brown envelope with 2 fingers. I brought your baby scan, madam. The one you ordered me to print. The hospital room went silent again, a tight, hot silence before something breaks. Bisi's shoulders lowered a little like a person who has run out of corners. Her hands trembled for the first time. Sei took 1 step inside. And I brought the proof of what you did in Ibadan, he said. The car shop man you almost destroyed. He sent me. He said, give them everything. The female officer gestured for him to hand the envelope over. He did. She opened it slowly. Inside were 3 glossy printouts on ultrasound paper, all dated today, all with the same image. A blank, fuzzy black circle with a faint fake dot and the words 6Ws. Stapled to them was a small receipt from a print shop and a short handwritten note. As agreed. Bisi's breath came fast now. They are lying, she said, voice small and big at the same time. All of them. All of you. The sergeant finally spoke in a voice that turned the air cold. Madam, you will not say another word without counsel, he said. Corporal, take her. The female officer reached for Bisi's elbow, not unkind, not soft. Bisi pulled away and stared at Chinedu. The mask slid off for 1 heartbeat. The thing under it was not pretty. This is not over, she whispered. Chinedu did not answer. He only looked at the floor. The officer led Bisi out. Sei remained where he was, water dripping from his jacket, eyes softening when he finally looked at Adeeze. Sister, I am sorry, he said quietly. People like her, they almost finished me. When I heard her voice again tonight I could not sleep. I came. Adeeze nodded once. Thank you, she said. The words felt small for what his coming meant, but they were true. The pharmacy board woman gathered the documents. We will file everything today, she said. We will also write to the pharmacy council in Ibadan. She glanced at Chinedu. Sir, you should take care of your wife. Nights like this leave wounds. Chinedu stared at his hands. His voice when it came was rough. I will. The corridor outside buzzed alive, nurses' shoes tapping, a mother shushing a crying child, a radio playing a low gospel song. Life was moving again. But inside the small room time was slow. Sei cleared his throat. There is one more thing, he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small black key with a rubber tag. This is for a locker at Yaba Footbridge, he said. Your friend made me put something there for today by 9 a.m. I don't know what is inside. She said it is the final thing to convince your husband if you refuse. I did not go again. I came here instead. Adeeze's hand closed on the key. It was warm from his pocket and heavy like a secret. The female officer nodded. We will go there after processing, she said. Sir, she added to Chinedu, do not open that locker alone. Chinedu shook his head slowly. I won't. They all stood, the room full of tired people who had fought through a long night and came out breathing. The doctor excused himself. Sei waited by the door. The officers' voices drifted from the corridor as they took Bisi away. Adeeze turned to the window again. Dawn had fully taken the sky now. The rain had stopped. The first Okadas were already weaving through the wet road, and a woman with a baby tied on her back laughed with a trader as they arranged tomatoes. Even after a storm, Lagos opens its shops. Chinedu spoke without looking up. Ada, he said. I broke the house God gave me. I let a stranger sit in our seat. He lifted his face. The guilt in his eyes was not small. If you send me away from the door, I will stand outside. If you give me one more day inside, I will use it to carry bricks, not break them. Adeeze looked at him a long time. The hurt in her chest was still sharp. The truth in the room was still new. Forgiveness is not a tap you open with one twist. It is a well you walk to step by step. She did not have steps yet. She had only breath. Go home, she said softly. Sleep on the couch. We will talk when the sun is high. He nodded, accepting the small mercy like water. The female officer stepped back in. We are taking her to the station now, she said. We will meet you by 9 a.m. at Yaba, near the footbridge lockers. Her eyes moved to the small black key in Adeeze's palm. Hold it tight. Adeeze closed her fingers. The key pressed into her skin, leaving a small mark. At exactly 9 a.m., when the market near the footbridge would be alive with hawkers and early commuters, when horns would cry and roasted corn smoke would rise, a little locker door would open on something Bisi had been preparing in the dark. The unknown number buzzed again on the female officer's phone with one last message as they stepped into the corridor. If you open the locker, record everything. She hid the worst thing there. The message ended. The phone fell silent. In the small hospital room, Adaeze and Chinedu stood side by side for the first time in weeks, looking at a key that might still break what was left, or expose what needed to be exposed so healing could finally begin. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and guess what Bisi hid in that Yaba locker. Share this story with someone who loves suspenseful African folktales. Your support helps us keep telling these stories. Morning traffic rolled like a brown river under the Yaba footbridge. Hawkers shouted, Ajij bread. Gala. Cold water. Smoke from roast corn drifted in sweet lines. Okadas zigzagged like dragonflies. Adeeze stood with the small black key in her hand, wrapper tied firm, hair in a neat twist out under a dark scarf. Chinedu stood beside her in a plain gray kaftan, eyes tired, jaw steady. Officer Adesua, slim with tight cornrows, watched the crowd with alert eyes. The stocky sergeant stood close, one palm on his belt. Sei from Ibadan leaned by the pillar in a brown jacket, scanning faces like a man who had learned to fear shadows. They stopped before a green line of small lockers under the bridge. Number 47 stared back at them like a square eye. The sergeant checked the number twice. Here, he said. Adeeze slid the key in. It stuck at first, the way small doors do when they don't want to tell the truth. She turned it once, then again. The lock clicked. The tiny door creaked open. Inside lay a black nylon bag tied with red ribbon, a flat brown envelope, and a cheap feature phone with a broken screen. On top sat a folded gelly head tie, bright orange, and a small plastic pouch with gold stars. The pouch rattled faintly like beads. The world around them kept moving. Buses grunted, a conductor slapped the side of a danfo, a woman laughed loudly as she balanced tomatoes on her head. But the tiny square in front of them felt like a quiet room. Don't touch yet, Officer Adesua said gently. She pulled gloves from her pocket, passed a pair to the sergeant, and wore a pair herself. We film, she added, lifting her body cam and tapping it. We narrate. We remove one by one. She spoke clearly into the camera. Yaba footbridge lockers. Number 47. Time is 9:04 a.m. Witnesses present. Complainant Adeeze, husband Chinedu, witness Sei, Police Sergeant Ade, Corporal Adesua, Pharmacy Board Officer en route. She looked at Adeeze. Ready? Adeeze nodded. Her fingers trembled, but her feet did not move. The officer lifted the black nylon first. She untied the red ribbon and peeled the plastic open. Inside was a small world of wickedness, 3 fake antenatal cards with different hospital names, Mercy Care, St. Jude Annex, Rosewell Clinic, all bearing the name Bisi Adeyemi in neat blue ink, a bundle of crisp printed pregnancy scan papers each labeled 6WKS, the same fuzzy black image copied again and again, 2 droppers filled with red liquid, 3 thin art brushes, and a small clear bottle with a skull and crossbones sticker and a handwritten label, Rat Poison, Strong. Adeeze's stomach turned. Chinedu closed his eyes for a second. Sei swore under his breath and then said, Sorry. Officer Adesua lifted the poison with 2 fingers and placed it into a separate evidence bag. We will not open this, she said. We will test it lab. Do not breathe near it. She opened the flat brown envelope next. Out slid photocopies of land papers, their duplex in Surulere, plus a typed deed of gift, pre-filled to transfer the house to Ms. Bisi Adeyemi and child, with a shaky copy of Chinedu's signature traced from somewhere. A rubber stamp impression in red tried to look official. The ink was blotchy like a lie that sweats. Tucked behind, there were 2 passport photographs of Chinedu from an old work ID, cut neatly ready to glue. Chinedu swayed like a tall tree in sudden wind. He put his palm on the bridge rail, breathing slow. She was going to take the house, he said softly, more to himself than to anyone. She wanted me out and a paper to hold the door. The officer placed the papers in a clear sleeve. She reached again and pulled out the cheap feature phone. It blinked to life with a small whine. 7 unread messages. 5 voice notes. A text draft open on the screen. Church elder impregnates wife's friend, woman speaks. It was addressed to a popular gossip blog number. Adaeze felt the ground tilt under her feet, then settle. Shame rose to her throat like smoke, but it was not her shame. It belonged to someone else. She held it away from her skin. The gold star pouch rattled when Officer Adesua picked it up. Inside were 5 tiny memory cards and a folded paper titled in sharp block letters, Plans. She unfolded it carefully. The handwriting jumped at them, fast, neat, wicked. Soft path. Laugh with neighbors, be good girl. Cook. Pray. Help. Take over chores. Mirror broachy. Memorize his calendar. Separate them with pity. Be child path. If tests fail, bribe. If bribe fails, paint. If paint fails, scan print, Tolu. If scan fails, faint in kitchen. If faint fails, blame stress. See break wife. Slip powder into her tea? Later. Put poison in own cup? Scream. Blame her. Call blog, cry. She hates me. She hit me. Gather neighbors. Shame works. D. Secure house. Deed of gift. Copy signature. Stamp at Oju. Bring pastor for family peace, he will side baby. Move bag in before month end. Backup. Rent for 1 room ready. Lawyer friend, letter if police come. Travel to Ibadan if Lagos spoils. Jesus, Say whispered, then covered his mouth. The sergeant's face became stone. Traffic roared. Somewhere above, a preacher on a loudspeaker shouted, "Repent." The words fell into the heat and the noise in the paper. Adaeze swallowed hard. A small part of her, sharp and stubborn, stood up inside her chest. The part that had kept her standing through weeks of small cuts. The part that had opened her door to a friend in need and could not understand how kindness became a knife. Officer Adesua tucked the list away. She popped 1 memory card into a police reader. A small screen bloomed with thumbnails, short videos shot in their sitting room. In one, Bisi stood by the kitchen shelf, whispering to the cheap phone camera, rehearsing tears. In another, she angled the phone to catch Adaeze in a mirror, then muttered, "Make her look harsh." In a third, Bisi put the small red bottle beside a tea mug, then moved it out again and took a photo of the mug alone. The timestamps were clear. The intent was louder. "Enough," the sergeant said softly. He looked at Adaeze. "We will close the locker now and take everything. We will add this to our case. Are you okay?" "I am standing," Adaeze said. It was the truest sentence in her mouth. They bagged each item carefully. People passing slowed to watch. Lagos enjoys a live story. 2 area boys drifted nearer, eyes on the evidence pouch. Sei shifted and moved between them and the table with the quiet body of someone who knows how trouble walks. The boys drifted away. As they turned to leave, a slim woman in a navy jacket hurried up, the pharmacy board officer. She had sweat on her forehead and a small file under her arm. "Sorry," she said. "Traffic." Her eyes ran over the items fast, sharp. She whistled softly. "This one is not small." They moved as a group to the patrol van. Chinedu helped Adaeze into the back seat. His hand hovered a second longer than necessary, then fell. The driver started the engine. The bridge hair-thin shadows and the noise fell behind them as they rolled back into Surulere. On the way, a new text pinged on Officer Adesua's phone from the unknown number. She glanced, then read aloud. "She has one more friend, a Maka wig, who keeps receipts for her. Check her salon at Oju Market. Backroom. Purple curtain." The officer saved the number and replied 1 word, "Noted." They reached the station compound, a low cream building with bushy hibiscus out front, and went straight inside. Bisi sat on a bench by the duty desk, face blank, scarf neat, eyes cold. Her cornsilk smile was gone. Her knotless braids were wrapped under a scarf now, but a few strands framed her face. When she saw the evidence bags, a tiny muscle jumped in her cheek. "Madam," the sergeant said, voice even. "Locker 47. She looked at the ceiling. "Anybody can put anything anywhere." Sei snorted. "You put it there yourself yesterday afternoon." He lifted his chin. "I watched you from across the footbridge when you told me to wait." Bisi's eyes flicked to him like a knife. "Coward." A desk officer stamped papers with quick thuds. The pharmacy board officer signed a chain of custody form. Officer Adesua filmed short clips of each item and sealed them in labeled bags. The room smelled like ink, dust, and the sweet tea of the woman at the corner desk. They moved to an interview room, small, blue walls, one fan. Bisi sat on one side of a wooden table between the sergeant and a younger constable taking notes. Her lawyer friend arrived late, a thin man with glasses, expensive perfume, and a hungry look. He brushed a speck from his sleeve and said, "My client will not say anything today." "Good," the sergeant said. "She will sign for the items and the test result. Then she will go to the cell to rest." The lawyer clicked his tongue. "Cell? She is not a criminal. Tonight she is an accused," Officer Adesua said, calm as rain. "Tomorrow the DPO will decide bail." She looked at Bisi. "Eat and drink now. It will be a long day." Bisi stared past all of them at the wall. Her voice came out small and hard at once. "I am the villain now," she said. "But I only did what Lagos taught me. If you don't hold your future with two hands, someone will snatch it. Everybody is wicked. I only learned fast." Adaeze stood at the doorway and listened to the sentence fall like stones. She turned away and found Chinedu waiting in the corridor, shoulders heavy. He did not touch her. He did not try a poor apology here in public under police light. He only said, "Mama called. She is coming from Enugu." Adaeze felt a fresh panic rise, the kind that comes when mothers enter a fire. "Tell her to come in the afternoon," she said gently. "Tell her I am safe." He nodded. "Okay." They stepped outside for air. The hibiscus bushes trembled in a small breeze. A hawker passed with chilled sachet water. Chinedu bought two and handed one to Adaeze. She pressed it to her forehead and then drank slow. Heat and tiredness left her body in little lines. "Forgive me," he said, voice breaking a little. She looked at him over the small plastic bag. "Not here," she said. "Not now." He nodded again. "Okay." A car hooted at the gate. Mama Kemi stepped out, tying her gray scarf tighter. She walked like a woman who had lived through many small wars and learned to keep her eyes clean. She hugged Adeeze's shoulders. "I followed," she said. "If they like, let them say I am nosy. I am mother of our compound." "Thank you," Adeeze whispered. "Come," Mama Kemi said. "Sit small in shade. Drink small. Later we will go home and open windows. A house must breathe after a night like this." They sat on a low bench under a mango tree inside the station compound. The breeze carried smell of road dust, fried puff-puff, and distant petrol. Life moved. After an hour, Officer Adesua came to them with a small clipboard. "We will arraign her tomorrow on 2 charges first: attempted fraud at a health facility and possession of a harmful substance with intent. We will add forgery after we check the papers. For now you can go home." Chinedu stood. "We will also go to a Maka's salon at Oju Market," he said, a steel edge in his voice. "We will end this today." "Not you," the officer said. "You two will go home. Lock your door. Rest. We will go with a small team. If we find anything we will call you." Chinedu started to argue then stopped. He had used up his arguments. He had used up his pride. He was learning yes ma now. They returned home with Mama Kemi. Neighbors peeked behind curtains but nobody shouted. Lagos loves drama but it also fears police paper. Adeeze opened windows and tied back curtains. She washed cups. She wiped the table where the fake test had sat like a small god. She picked up the white plastic stick and dropped it into a black nylon, tied it and put it by the door to throw away later. She shook out the throw blanket on the couch and folded it away as if folding away a night. Chinedu carried a mop and bucket. He washed the corridor slowly back and forth, eyes on water. He moved furniture back into place. He scrubbed the bathroom floor, gentle, careful. He washed the 2 cups on the sink himself. It was not penance, it was a beginning. At noon his mother called again. Her voice reached through the speaker like a hand. "My son," she said in Igbo, "God shamed the devil you brought into your house. Now hold your wife with 2 hands." He swallowed. "Yes, Mama?" She asked to speak to Adeeze. "Nwam, my daughter," she said when the phone changed hands, "do not let this pain make you bitter. Bitterness is a rope that ties you to the one who hurt you." Her voice softened. "When I married your father we had our own storm. We came out with scars and a stronger roof. Pray and think. We will talk when I come. I will not enter your house with fire." Adeeze smiled weakly. "Yes, Mama." By 2 p.m. the house felt like itself again, only quieter. The security boy swept the front step. He looked up worried. "Madam," he asked, "should I still greet that auntie if she returns?" Greet everybody, Adeeze said. But do not open our door for anybody I did not send. He nodded with relief. Yes, Ma. A little after 3 p.m., Officer Adesua called. We went to a Maka's salon, she said. We found a back room with purple curtain. Inside were wigs, yes, but also a drawer full of receipts for forged clinic documents and a notebook with names. Your name is there. The plan was to call a blogger this evening. We have taken everything. We also have a Maka. She is talking. Thank you, Adeeze said. Her knees went weak. She sat down slowly on the edge of the couch, palm on her chest. There is one more thing, the officer added. We saw your husband's duplicated SIM request form at a small kiosk there. Someone planned to reset his bank app using that. We stopped it. Changed passwords today. Adeeze's eyes flew to Chinedu. He was already digging his phone from his pocket, mouth tight. We will change now, he said. As they worked on the passwords, a knock sounded at the front door. Gentle, single, steady. Not the police knock. Not the neighbor knock. Chinedu wiped his hands and went to the door. He opened it a little. A young woman stood there, slim, with short natural hair and a simple green wrapper. Her eyes were tired. Her palms were dry. Behind her, a boy of about 5 held her leg and stared with round eyes. Good afternoon, she said softly. My name is Tola. I am from Ibadan. Please, I am looking for Madame Adeeze. Adeeze stood and came forward. I am Adeeze, she said. The woman gripped the wrapper edge tighter. I heard what happened, she said. I came because I have been carrying one truth alone. She glanced at the child. This boy is mine. His father is the car shop man in Ibadan, the one your friend tried to trap. She swallowed. He told me to forgive him and I did. He is trying to be a better man. He said to tell you that he is sorry that his weakness brought this devil to your door. He said to give you this. She held out a small brown journal with a broken spine. On the cover, written in neat, proud letters, Bisi, my plans, my wins. It was under her bed in Ibadan, Tola said. She forgot it when she ran to Lagos. I kept it. I prayed. When I heard her name on the phone this morning, I entered bus. I came. Adeeze took the book with both hands like a small sacred thing. She looked at Tola and saw herself, another woman with a house that had been walked through by a storm she did not invite. Thank you, Adeeze whispered. She touched the child's head. God keep you. Tola nodded and stepped back. I will go now, she said. I did not come to enter your house. I came to drop a weight. When the door closed, Adeeze opened the journal. Pages and pages of tight handwriting, dates, names, tricks, prices, lessons learned, rehearsed tears, recipes for making a voice small. The final page held a line that felt like cold water. If the wife is soft, press. If she is silent, speak for her. She fights, cry. If she brings proof, call it wickedness. If the man wants a child, hold that like a rope. House secured in 6 weeks or move on. Adeeze closed the book and held it to her chest. She thought of the first day Bisi walked in with 2 suitcases and a smile. She thought of damp towels, midnight soups, the balcony laugh that cut her own laughter. She thought of the night rains and the red line that wasn't a line. She thought of a key under a bridge and a woman who chose to come forward carrying a child and a truth. She stood. Chinedu, she said. He looked up from his phone, eyes wide, afraid. Yes. We will go to see Pastor Okoro tomorrow, she said. Not for drama. For counsel. For both of us. Not to shame. To rebuild if it is right. If it is not right, we will still walk with sense. He nodded quickly, hope and guilt warring in his face. Yes. Anything you say. Not anything I say, she corrected softly. We will say together. He swallowed. Together, he repeated. Evening came slow and soft. The compound women cooked beans and fried plantain. Children chased one another with wet slippers. The sky turned mango orange, then purple. Generators grumbled awake like old uncles. A coolness entered through the open window and carried the day's dust away. Adeeze sat at the table and began to write a list. Bank passwords to change, locks to rekey, a new boundary list for guests, no long stays, no midnight kitchen, a plan for counseling, a plan to visit her mother. She added one more quiet line at the bottom. Thank God for women who refuse to fear, Aishat, Mama Kemi, Officer Adesua, Tola. Her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. She has one last hand. Watch your back tomorrow at pastor's office. No name. No smiley face. Only that line. Adeeze looked at the window. The curtain moved. A tiny pulse beat in her throat. She sent the message to Officer Adesua at once. The officer replied within a minute, We will be around the street in plain clothes. Do not fear. Lock your gate tonight. Adaeze stood, closed the window gently and slid the bolt. She checked the front door twice. She placed the journal and the evidence bag on the top shelf inside the wardrobe. She washed her hands with lemon soap and stood in the middle of her sitting room. Chinedu came from the corridor with a thin pillow. He did not ask to share the bed. He dropped the pillow on the couch and looked at his wife. "Good night," he said, voice careful. "Good night," she said. He lay down and stared at the ceiling fan blades turning slow. She lay in the bedroom and watched shadows on the wall. Sleep came like a shy visitor. It sat on the edge of the bed and waited. Somewhere in the night, a cat cried, then went quiet. Just before dawn, a soft scraping sound came from the back door near the gas cylinder. Not loud. A careful, sneaky scrape. Then a whisper. Then a pause. Adaeze sat up, heart thumping. She slipped from bed and moved to the corridor. Chinedu was already awake on the couch, eyes open in the dark. He raised a finger. Wait. The scraping came again, a metal-on-metal sigh. Chinedu crept to the back door, bare feet silent. He peeped through the curtain. The yard was gray-blue. A slim shadow crouched by the lower hinge, hand working with something thin. Chinedu's phone lit his face for 1 second as he texted. The reply came fast. "We are outside." He exhaled, held the handle and waited. The shadow lifted its head and looked straight at the door. The face turned just enough for the porch light to kiss it. Long braids tucked under a scarf, a tight mouth, eyes wide and wild. It was Bisi. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what you think Bisi is planning at the back door. Share this story with someone who loves suspenseful African folktales. Your support keeps these stories coming. Chinedu's hand tightened on the back door handle. Adaeze stood behind him in the dark corridor, bare feet on cool tiles, her breath small and steady. The tiny scraping sound came again, metal against metal, patient and wicked. Then a whisper, "Open, open!" The porch bulbed through a weak circle of light. In it, Bisi's scarfed head lifted slowly. Her eyes were wide and hard. In her right hand, a thin steel file glinted. In her left hand, a flat key copied from somewhere. Chinedu's phone buzzed in his palm. A message blinked from Officer Adesua. "We are at the corner. Don't open. Stall." He swallowed and steadied his voice. "Who is there?" he called in a low tone, like a man talking to a strange dog. "Lagos Waste," Bisi answered, voice sweet and fake. "We came to collect your bin." "At 4 a.m.?" he said, not moving. "Brother Chi," Bisi whispered, dropping the act. "It is me. Open small. I just came to pick my head tie and my power bank. Please. They are in the house." Adaeze stepped close enough to be heard through the wood. "Your head tie is safe at the station," she said calmly. "Go back." Silence. Then the quick scratch of the file in the hinge again. Chinedu texted one word. "Now." Somewhere beyond the wall, in the wet quiet of the alley, a shoe scuffed. Another shoe. Two soft whistles answered each other like night birds. Bisi crouched, eyes on the lower hinge, tongue pressed to a corner of her mouth in sharp concentration. Her left hand reached into her bag and came out with a small sachet, the kind roadside shops use. Inside was something pale, powder. She held it like a secret. Her whisper slid under the door. "Since you want to be stubborn, I will make you scream and call the whole street." "Stand back," Chinedu murmured to Adaeze. She took one slow step behind him, but she did not run. She could not. Not again. The alley light flashed once, then twice. A hand clamped Bisi's wrist from behind like a trap snapping. She gasped and twisted, but another hand caught her bag. "Police," a quiet female voice said close to her ear. "Don't move." The sachet fell and burst over the cement in a cloud of chalky dust that smelled bitter. Bisi struggled like a fish in a net. "Leave me." "Thief," she shouted, voice rising. "Help. They want to kidnap me." "Madam, if you shout, we will shout our badge numbers louder," the voice replied. "Stand up with respect. Don't embarrass yourself." Chinedu opened the back door a crack now. The scene in the small yard was clear in the thin light. Officer Adesua behind Bisi with a firm hold. Another plainclothes officer, stocky, dark, pinned Bisi's bag to the wall. The security boy stood to one side, round eyes huge, clutching a broom like a spear. In the side alley, the sergeant stepped out of the shadows with two men from the night patrol. A slim man on an Okada at the corner revved his engine once and tried to back away. The sergeant lifted a hand like a traffic warden. Two patrol boys swung in and boxed the Okada in neatly. The rider wore a green cap. He froze. "Evening delivery ABI?" the sergeant said. "Where to?" The rider licked his lips. Oga no vex. I came to carry passenger. It's 4 a.m., the sergeant replied. Your passenger is going to station. Bisi jerked, tried to throw her weight. Officer Adesua moved with her, not against her, a neat dance that ended with Bisi's hands behind her back and a thin plastic cuff clicking shut. Only then did the officer speak in a voice that could calm a barking dog. Madam, you were granted temporary police bail to sleep in your own mother's house with one rule: no contact with the complainants. You broke it. You came to their house with tools and powder. You will go back to the station now. Bisi's eyes burned. Even you, she hissed. A woman like me? You stand with her? I stand with law, the officer said. And with women who don't plot in the dark. The sergeant nodded at the spilled powder. Bag it, he told the patrol boy. Don't taste it. Don't smell it. He turned his head. What is in the bag? The stocky officer opened the bag gently and pulled items one by one. A thin flat key with black tape around its head, a folded brown envelope, a small red bottle like the one from the hospital, and a cheap phone with the back cover tied on with rubber band. He placed them into a clear pouch. The female officer frisked Bisi quickly and professionally. From the waistband of her skirt, she removed a narrow blade, the kind used to trim paper. The neighbors' windows began to glow. One curtain shifted, another lifted. The compound was waking. Mama Kemi's door opened a hand's width and then wide. She came out in a wrapper and headscarf, chin high. Caro o, she greeted the officers softly. No fighting under my mango tree again. No fighting, ma, the sergeant replied with the respect older women earned by living long and straight. Please film, Mama Kemi said calmly. Let nobody say we beat anybody in shadow. The officer's body cam had been running from the first grab. She tilted her chin toward it in a tiny nod. Bisi drew herself up, dignity like a thin shawl around her shoulders. Can I fix my scarf? She asked. I don't want to look mad in front of the street. Fix it, Officer Adesua said, watching her hands like a hawk. Bisi adjusted the scarf with grace, like a woman at a wedding. The act almost made Adaeze laugh and cry at once. How did a person dress wickedness like Sunday? They moved toward the gate as the sky softened from ink to ash. The Okada with the man in the green cap stood quiet now, engine off. The sergeant glanced at him. Your name? Sunday, the rider muttered, eyes down. They booked me online. By who? The sergeant asked. The rider hesitated. Number saved as Auntie B, he said finally. Good, the sergeant replied. You will write it at the station. In the sitting room, Chinedu leaned on the door frame as the officers led Bisi out through the passage. She turned her head and looked at him like a woman who has lost a crown. You will miss me, she said. You will miss how your house felt when it was warm. Chinedu met her eyes without blinking. My house is warm when truth lives here, he said. For a second, something old in Bisi's face showed. The NYC girl who had danced in white canvas shoes, who had laughed too loud, who had dreamed of a soft life. It flickered and died. She faced forward and walked. At the gate, Mama Kemi stood to the side with her hands on her hips, the way mothers stand when they keep a street steady. She did not speak to Bisi. Speaking is a gift. She kept it. As the van door closed, Adaeze's phone buzzed. The unknown number again. She will try the pastor last. They have a prophetess on payroll. Don't drink water. Don't be alone. Don't sign paper. A second later, another message. Blog post scheduled 10 a.m. Lagos wife tries to poison best friend. A link preview flashed, not yet live, timer icon ticking like a wicked clock. Adaeze forwarded the messages to Officer Adesua at once. The reply came quickly. We are on it. We will call the blogger before it goes live. And we will be outside the church compound before you arrive. Walk with peace. Carry your proof. Chinedu closed the door and leaned his forehead against the wood for a moment, shoulders shaking once. He turned and hugged the empty air, like a man trying to hold a thing he cannot name. I am sorry, he said again, voice quiet and hoarse, to the room, to the day, to God. Boil water, Adaeze said softly, because sometimes the next right thing is small. We will bathe and dress. Then we will go. They bathed in silence. Adaeze oiled her skin with shea butter and tied a simple blue Ankara wrapper and blouse. She fixed her twist out, pinned it with 2 small gold clips, and drew her brows lightly. She did not want to look broken. She wanted to look like herself. Chinedu wore a clean white kaftan, combed his low cut, and sat on the edge of the couch like a boy waiting outside the principal's office. They prayed 2 short sentences, the kind that fit in a breath. Then they stepped out. Pastor Okoro's church sat in a modest hall off a busy Surulere street. Cream paint, green plastic chairs, a blue banner with dove and olive branch, House of Quiet Waters. The compound gate was open. 2 ushers in plain shirts stood at the door. Inside, the hall smelled like morning. Floor cleaner, old wood, a hint of anointing oil. A ceiling fan whirred. The pastor's office was a small room with a desk, 2 chairs, and a metal cabinet. On the wall, a framed verse, "Let all things be done decently and in order." Pastor Okoro, mid-50s, dark skin, short salt and pepper hair, met them with a steady look. He wore a simple gray suit and no rings except his wedding band. His eyes held the tired kindness of a man who had listened to too many secrets. "Good morning, my children," he said. "Come, sit. We will talk only truth today." He glanced past them, his brows rose slightly. "I see we have visitors." 2 women in plain clothes slipped in and sat at the back, Officer Adesua and another policewoman in mufti. They did not speak. They looked like ordinary church women who pray quietly. Outside, in the compound, the sergeant leaned on a wall, chatting with an usher about football. Mama Kemi sat in the second row with a hymn book open, as if Sunday had come early. Aishat from the pharmacy arrived quietly and took a seat too. She had said she wanted to see this thing to the end. Say stood near the back, cap in hand. "Thank you for making this public," Adaeze said softly to the pastor. "The devil loves dark rooms." "We will keep it decent," Pastor Okoro said. He folded his hands on the desk. "Where is the other person?" As if on cue, the door opened. Bisi stepped in, hair now in a neat bun, face plain, eyes cool. Her scarf and clothes were new. She had changed at the station before being escorted here under condition. Her lawyer friend hovered at the door, perfume strong. He gave the pastor a smooth smile. "For fairness," he said. The pastor nodded. "You are welcome. But this is not court. If I say no speech, you will be quiet." The lawyer's smile thinned. "Of course, man of God." Bisi took the chair opposite Adaeze and Chinedu. She sat with perfect posture and placed her palms on her knees like a schoolgirl. The room felt too small for her calm. "A word before we start," the pastor said. "No shouting. No insults. Only facts. We will pray, then speak, then write a short agreement of next steps. Are we agreed?" "We are," Adaeze said. Chinedu nodded. Bisi's chin dipped a millimeter. They prayed a short prayer that did not try to be poetry. Then the pastor opened his eyes. "Sister Bisi," he said gently, "since you are the visitor in this marriage, we will hear you first. Speak your truth." Bisi drew a breath like a singer about to start. "I am sorry," she said in a soft, trained voice. "I came into this house as a friend who needed help. I stayed too long. I let my feelings grow. I am a woman who wants love and a child. I made mistakes." She glanced at Adaeze, eyes wet, voice even softer. "But I am not a monster. I never wanted to destroy. I wanted a place to belong." Adaeze said nothing. The pastor nodded once. "Thank you. Now facts. Did you attempt to bribe pharmacy staff to alter a test?" Bisi's lips pressed together. "I was desperate," she whispered. "I thought if he saw a sign he would." The pastor lifted a palm gently. "Did you?" Bisi swallowed. "Yes," she said, voice thin as thread. A small stir moved through the room. "Did you bring poison into their house?" the pastor asked. Bisi's eyes flashed. "It was to scare her," she said. "Not to kill." "Even fear can kill," the pastor said simply. "Did you try to copy house papers?" I wanted security," she murmured. "Security built on theft is a trap," he replied gently. The lawyer shifted. "Pastor, this line of—" "Sir," the pastor said without looking at him, "one more word and you will wait outside." The lawyer's mouth closed with a click. The pastor turned to Chinedu. "Son," he said, "you allowed this woman into your home. You stood silent until it became a mountain. Why?" Chinedu's voice came rough. "I wanted a child," he said. "My fear made me foolish." "Do you still want this marriage?" the pastor asked. "Yes," Chinedu said at once. "With work, with truth, with boundaries. If she will have me." The pastor turned to Adaeze. "Daughter, you have been hurt, but you have not raised your voice to hurt back. Do you still want this marriage?" Adaeze stared at her hands for a long heartbeat. The room held its breath. "I want peace," she said finally. "If peace lives in this marriage, I will stay. If peace refuses, I will leave before I die standing." The pastor nodded. "That is a wise answer." He picked up a pen and a blank sheet. "We will write 3 steps. 1. No contact between the couple and Sister Bisi forever. 2. Counseling for husband and wife for 12 weeks. 3. Police to continue their case. The lawyer cleared his throat. Pastor, my client. Outside, the pastor said without raising his voice. The lawyer stared, then smiled a thin smile and stepped out. The door clicked. Bisi, the pastor said softly, I will also assign you to our church mothers. Not to comfort your sin but to correct your steps. You need women who will not clap for wickedness. You need work. Real work. Go and learn to carry your life with your own hands, not by stealing another woman's door. Bisi's eyes finally flickered with something real. Anger? Shame? A small hurricane inside? It passed. She opened her mouth to respond. And every phone in the room buzzed at once. A chorus of pings. The pastor's receptionist knocked and pushed the door. Her face was pale. Sir, it is online, she said. It is already on 2 blogs. Lagos wife tries to poison best friend. They posted at 9:59 a.m. People are tagging the church. They are writing your names. Officer Adesua stood in one clean motion, phone in hand. On her screen, the headline screamed with a photo of Adaeze, stolen from her shop page, beside a photo of Bisi crying at the pharmacy counter, edited to make Bisi's eyes redder. The caption read, Exclusive. Woman welcomes friend into her home, then turns bitter and tries to poison her after husband shows kindness. Sources say wife is barren and jealous. A counter at the corner ticked as views climbed like fast ants. The room turned hot. A low hum rose from the hall as people began to murmur. The pastor's jaw tightened. Who sent it? He asked. Account linked to Gistage, the officer said, already dialing. We warned them. They ignored. We will freeze it if we can. But the fire is already running. The receptionist lifted a finger. Sir, there is more. Reporters are outside the gate. A heavy drum began somewhere in the street. Noise, rumor, Lagos. Bisi's lips curved by the smallest breath. It was not a smile, not a laugh. It was a shadow of victory creeping across her face. Adaeze felt a heat rise under her skin, then a cold, then a steadiness like iron. She reached into her bag and pulled out the journal Tola had brought, the one with Bisi, my plans, my wins, written in proud letters. She put it on the desk. Pastor, please, she said, voice clear and simple. Let us open this book to a page and read it out loud to the room. Let us show the truth before lies become morning bread. The pastor placed his palm on the cover, then looked around the room. Fetch the women elders, he told the receptionist. Ask the ushers to let 2 reporters come inside with their cameras. Only 2. And tell the rest to wait. He opened the journal to the last page. The neat letters looked back without shame. If the wife is soft, press. If she brings proof, call it wickedness. House secured in 6 weeks or move on. The door to the hall swung wider. 2 women elders entered in gelly and glasses. 2 young reporters, sweaty and excited, lifted their cameras. The room filled with a hush that felt like the moment before a match catches fire. Begin, the pastor said. Bisi's eyes snapped to the open page. For the first time since dawn, fear flared plain on her face. Her hand shot forward toward the book. And every light in the church blinked off at once. The ceiling fan slowed. The hall dropped into a dim, murmuring dark. Outside, a van engine growled. Someone shouted, Nipa. The reporter's camera screens died, then returned on battery. In the sudden half-light, a tall figure appeared in the doorway, wet shoes leaving dark prints on the floor. He held a small black device that blinked with a red LED, and he wore a familiar green cap. The Okada rider. His grin was thin and wrong. Pastor, he said, voice too calm for the chaos, sorry to disturb. They sent me to collect that book. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what you think will happen with the journal and the Okada man. Share this story with someone who loves suspenseful African folktales. Your support keeps these stories coming. Watch out for the concluding part.